I suspect that one of the problems we're going to have is I can't remember how to do any of this.
Clare and Andy in the morning. Episode 8, going forward.
We could just witter about Empire for half an hour and I can cut that down to 15 minutes. So let's start in the traditional way. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. I picked up coffee on my way into work. Yep, that's going to do me damage if I try and drink it.
You know you can drink through those lids.
This one hasn't got a proper hole in it. This one hasn't got a hole in it. It's got a little steam hole. I'm not going to be able to drink through that without a really weird straw. So stop trying to get me killed.
Okay.
Oh, it's been a while. We haven't done one of these in like 6 months, something like that. We did one after event 2, I think.
Did we do one in the field? No, when we got home.
No, when we got home, because I remember talking about some rituals and things. I think it was event 2. Might be event 1. Either way, we're doing one now, and that's what matters. Okay, so
Yeah.
we could promote Unknown Worlds, but that's just sailed, so let's worry about that later. So
Well, it's in its very voyage now.
yes, yeah, it's quite good. But we're going to be talking about that later with our surprise special guest. I'm going to hype up the surprise special guest, and then people are going to be really disappointed when they find out who it is. I've got the agenda, so let's work through that. This year went really well, says Andy spontaneously.
Suspiciously well, wasn't it?
It was after 2 years off.
I think I was quite anxious going into event 1.
It was the most people I'd been around in like 1,000 days, something like that.
But it was weird. As soon as I was sort of through the gates and on the field, the muscle memory just kicked in.
It was. We talked before about how good it was that everybody just jumped back into the flow of things if we hadn't been away, but we had kind of been away, and we had all the there was all the COVID restrictions and similar that we all had to work around, and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it's. I finished. Usually I like a couple of days at the end of every event to sort of process it and get through it. And I reckon I finished every event this year just feeling good about what we'd just done.
Yeah, agreed. We after event 2, I think it was, we instituted our new get downtime open immediately after the event strategy, which I was initially a little bit skeptical about because I normally like a week to just lie on my back making sea sponge noises. But it went surprisingly well. We just went straight into prepping for the next event rather than taking some time off. I think that worked really well. And people appreciated having downtime.
The bit where you deal with all the paperwork before you leave site, I think, has been revolutionary.
Yeah.
I know it's exhausting, but
Yeah. But we have like 600-700 proofreaders, so that cuts down on the amount of time it takes to do it because I just bang it all out and then we wait for the emails to come in explaining that we've spelt somebody's name wrong or that something passed that failed or that there's yet another obvious copy paste error because I'm a lazy person. Yeah, good times. So it was good this year. I think that's some good plot, plot that we write.
there's how much are we allowed to talk about ongoing plot?
We need to be a little cautious around it because obviously not everybody has great time. I'm going to tell one anecdote in which I'm going to remove the serial numbers from, which is that we had a few hiccups with plots this year. Just normal stuff compared to the amount of plot we run. It was quite small, but for the player who gets caught by it, it's fairly major. But we also had a plot that involved not a murder mystery per se, but a thing that happened, and some players looked into it. Different groups of players, and they found out what was going on, and one of the players realised that from their point of view at any rate, I'm not going to say right or wrong, the only thing to do was to walk away, that any decision that they made would ultimately serve a bad end, so they walked away, but the other group of players who'd been involved with it weighed up the options and decided that they might as well do the thing rather than do the other thing, because at the end of the day they wanted to defeat the wickedness in front of them rather than worry about who was behind it, because this person right here was a threat and the person that they were allegedly working for was somewhere else. And I just thought that worked out really nicely, that two groups of players interacted with the same plot and came away with very different decisions on what they would do in character. And I like that kind of stuff. It's small, but I really enjoyed hearing the debrief on that one.
I can guarantee you I would not have been able to walk away if there was something I could have done right then.
No, quite. You're that kind of player.
So credit to them for actually making the decision to not make the decision.
But it's still a decision. Walking away is still a decision.
Yeah.
But arguably, both groups of players made the right decision, subjectively and arguably objectively. But yeah, so that was one. That was a plot. There was a load of other stuff like that over the course of this year. Plots have worked really well. Ambitious stuff, smaller scale stuff. It's all worked really well. We have a really good plot team at the moment. I'm really proud of
it. Yeah. They work hard. They really do. There's been some really nice stuff that, without any detail at all, has just brought individuals from across the field together to deal with things and share information and help each other. And that stuff's really cool because it's a social game and more talking is more better.
Anything that encourages players who might not otherwise interact with each other to interact with each other is, on the whole, at any rate, I think really positive for the game. We've seen a lot of those this year. That's been a recurrent success story, I think.
I feel we should do a shout out to Matilda Fisher.
Oh yes, absolutely. I was really worried that was going to be a damp squib. Massive credit to all the players and NPCs. We had a bunch of people from our NPC crew and a whole bunch of people from Skirmish team who actually went out on the field for it. And our year's build-up could so easily have been a letdown. But I think that came off really well. Not due to anything we've done, but just to that reaction between players and NPCs. It's the first time I think we've had a proper assault on the Senate building, for example. That was really good. Yeah, really pleased with how that went.
Maz and Mark, who were the Marchers Egregores, kept sort of reporting into me with what the Marchers were planning on doing when Matilda hit the field. So I kept getting these updates on the plans, and as far as I can tell, the plans just got thrown out the window immediately. They cast eyes on it.
But that was really good. It was really good. It meant that characters and players cared about what was going on. And it made for a great moment. It just made for a good moment. And much credit to our people on both sides, our people and the players on the field. I think turned that into a moment that will be talked about. And put a bunch of people in a bad position. I understand the militia were having to defend the terrible rabble rousing bad guy who several of whom's own nations wanted dead as a doornail. To stop the Breakersland situation. So I'm really pleased that went off. How have things been with the new... so go on.
National festivals. I caught a couple of the national festivals over the year. The Vrushkin Night Market, it always looks amazing when it's going on. And I was at the Marches. Is it the Summer Fair?
I think so. They do a Summer Fair and a Harvest Festival, I believe.
The Summer Fair with the games and...
Yeah, that sounds like
stuff like that. It was every church fete I've ever been made to go to by my mum. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
You mean that in a good way, I assume? Every church fete.
Yeah, they had that level of fun and enforced fun, and slightly creepy because it's the Marchers. Yeah. 12 Breaths was atmospheric and awesome as always.
That's when the Imperial Orc go off and do a spiritual ceremony together, isn't it?
Yeah. I got to put an orc mask on for that, so that was fun for me. But it just always looks good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some more this year. I hear the Festival of the Reaper was a great success at the start of the year.
It's months ago. Nobody remembers that.
Okay, no, fine. It was months ago. Nobody remembers that. I suppose that's fair.
No, I think that went well, and the Midsummer Gazing one that they do, I believe, went well too.
I think that's the new one, the Masquerade.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's great when
there's
players do things.
People who are dressing up as characters like more than those characters dressing up as other characters.
If you can't overcomplicate it, what is the point? How is new player stuff gone? I know that's your main area of focus at the start.
What's great about them, is right at the start of the event, I see at least a couple of hundred people who are about to go to their first event, and they're really excited for it and don't quite know what's going to hit them. Then right at the end of the event, I try and walk around the field and see as many of them as I can. So then I see another couple hundred people who've just been to their first LARP event, and it was amazing, and they're really excited, and it's just brilliant. I think, because we have so many of them these days, which is great. they bring so much life into the game,
Mm-hmm.
and
I was talking
very
to
little gets a chance to stagnate because there's constantly fresh.
I was talking to a friend of mine, to Nick, who I think is in Dawn at the moment. He's been a long term player, and he was saying that the influx of new players has had a noticeable effect on shaking up some of the areas of the game that he thought had started to become a little bit stagnant. The introduction of a whole bunch of new people who haven't absorbed the way things are done.
That's one of the things I love about them, is because the majority of them these days don't come from a LARP background, so they don't come in with all the preconceptions that you and I and the rest of us have from being in the hobby for so long, and they come in with schemes and plans and ideas that just wouldn't occur to us to go for straight away. It's great. Oh no.
Yeah.
I'll come to.
So I'll need to edit that slightly, although we could leave that in as a sort of an exciting foreshadowing of our special guest. So I'll jump quickly to the thing. The other thing I thought was really interesting is obviously every event this year has been record-breakingly big compared to both the event before it and the events we normally have at the time of year, and that's been it's been really cool, but at the same time it is scary as hell.
Was a point where biggest event ever lost all meaning as a phrase.
Yeah, and that's yeah. That's really,
no, it's exciting. There's challenges with it, but
it feels like we're stress testing some of our systems, and some of them are going to need a little bit of tweaking, I suspect, going forward, because they were designed to deal with 1,500 players, not 3,000 players, which is what we are looking at.
We should question our special guest about that in detail.
We could question our special guest about that in detail, but I'm worried what he might say. Should we bring in our special guest, given he's already tried to jump in?
We should bring in our special guest.
We should bring in our special guest. Okay, so it's time for us to bring in our very special guest, which I'm sure none of you will have guessed who that is by now.
Short delay while we rustle up the special guest.
Everybody else was booked, sadly.
Yeah, Graham didn't answer our calls.
No. Well, he wouldn't, would he? Because there is a new World of Warcraft expansion out, so we're not seeing him again for another fortnight until he has ridden all the dragons or whatever it is that expansion is about. Anyway, Matt. Those of you who don't know, it's Matt. Right, how you doing?
That is the worst intro ever.
You'll
never make it in daytime television.
I will never make it in daytime television. Yeah, I'm hoping for a spot on GB News. Yep, you preempted us by trying to jump into the chat earlier while you were rittering on about how great new players were. But you shouldn't use that as an excuse not to give us your trademark Clare and Andy in the morning rendition.
Clare and Andy in the morning is the best jingle ever.
It is the best jingle ever. It's nicked wholesale from a little show called Community, which nobody's ever heard of. So
you've spoiled everything. I assumed it was a unique composition.
What do you want to talk about this morning then?
I don't know. Have we talked about? Well, you've already talked about new players and how exciting that was. I think I'm on to talk about how exciting it is that Claire is joining PD full time in the new year. Is that what I'm here to talk about? Or is it my new book launch?
Are you joining PD full time in the new year? This is exciting new information. How's that going to go?
Joining PD full time in February.
February.
Woo! February. I know. I've got to slog through a 3-month notice period first.
So what are you going to be doing, Claire? What's Claire going to be doing, Matt? Honestly, it's like we haven't scripted or planned any of this. Do you two just want to talk about Claire's new exciting role? I'm so excited I've written February down on my notepad and underlined it, and I have no idea why.
Be good, because if Matt tells us, I'll find out too.
Job titles are really exciting.
Job titles are really exciting. I think all we've done so far is the job title, isn't it? No, we've had a couple of discussions and there's a lot more to have. But there was a lot of... we went round a few houses and then we settled on Empire Game Director as your new title, which I think just makes you Lord of all you survey. That's my concept.
I think it's never going to appear on a drop-down box for insurance.
I think you have to click... Let me think. I think it has to be event planner or something like that is what you take.
Oh, no, forget it. That there is the entire leisure industry does not exist as far as the insurance industry is concerned. Events, leisure, you're lucky if you find leisure in an insurance drop down, in my experience.
So what are you going to be doing?
Yeah, I think there's lots of things, isn't there? But I'm, as some people will know, got new sort of responsibilities coming on the horizon in terms of the site. We are looking for a permanent site, and that quest is underway. So some of my time is going to be distracted and drawn away to other things and speaking with councils and planning committees and all that stuff. And we're also, I think, trying to make the business a bit less dependent on me. The bus philosophy of, it has to survive somebody going under a bus. And so my goal is essentially for you to take over the job I'm doing now, being in charge of the whole customer facing side of Empire, really, and being in overall charge of the direction of the game. Yeah. No small
See
potatoes.
the creeping horror in Andy's eyes as you say that. It's answering the weird questions and things like that. Yeah. Because we've got a pretty slick machine in general, haven't we?
Everywhere that I'm not involved, yes.
I'm glad you said that. I was trying to find a way to diplomatically phrase that. I think you have a skewed idea of our machine because you run your bit of the machine with an iron fist. Other bits of the machine are a bit more noodly.
Okay.
No, it's all going to be good. But I think basically we're going to sort of share a lot of the incoming emails between us. You'll do a lot of pick up some of the front-facing stuff I do now, talking to players. If there's problems, players have had a bad experience, you'll kind of look into that side of things and get that sorted as best we can for them, and generally start to sort of take over on that side of Empire, basically, as I see it, and be kind of responsible for the game. Public face of Empire. No big deal.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I'm planning posters as we speak.
You've already got a series of posters, haven't you?
I do. Anyway.
So this is because Matt's going to be looking at Unknown Worlds, which is the campaign to buy a site for us to run. Do you want to tell us about that a bit?
Yes, we've set up a new company. We've sold shares in it. We've raised £800,000, which seems like an inconceivable amount of money, but was just over our target. So I suppose was conceived. But it's great. It's just absolutely fantastic. We are completely over the moon about it. But now that we've successfully raised all the money, that the onus is now on me to actually find and buy and develop the site. So I've got to keep my end of the bargain up. So I'm feeling the pressure, basically. Indeed, I was literally writing an email to an agent, a land agent, when Andy said, "Yeah, we're ready for you now." So I'm trying to focus a lot of my time this winter on that. It's going to take a long time, but this winter is all about getting a good search process up, getting regular contact with agents, and basically building a system. But there'll be a lot of going out, looking at land, talking to people. It'll take up a big chunk of my time. And I think we know from bitter experience, Andy, that when the person running the game suddenly has a major other project to happen, does that go well?
It always goes absolutely perfectly, and everything is absolutely fine. And I am not getting Maelstrom flashbacks in any way, shape, or form. It's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. Fine.
No, I think we've got a really
because you've got me.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing your Winter Fortune.
Oh, God. It's interesting because when people ask me about a new site, which they do quite regularly, if they'd asked me sort of 10 years ago, I'd got really excited about having a tavern and a senate. And these days, what I'm really excited about is plumbing.
In our utterly authoritative survey of almost 15 people, people voted 10-1 in favour of toilets instead of castles. Our hobby is
very disappointed to just.
People want showers and toilets first. But yeah, it's broadly positive. Where we've had some really good meetings with some planning consultants. They're really positive. We actually went out and looked at a piece of land last week, a week before last. It was too small, but it was kind of dipping our feet in the actual looking at sites, water. It was just a 70-acre wood. which
Was
sadly
it
is much too small for us now.
was it within half an hour of Preston where I live?
It was not.
Oh,
No.
it sounds like a terrible site. You should. It's a good job that it was too small, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, we're looking in the Midlands, I'm afraid, Andy, and Preston is not in the Midlands.
Do any loppers
But
live in the Midlands? Anyway.
yes, lots. I think the point is, Claire, as I see it, we're going to work sort of hand in glove through the run up to that first event, and we'll sort of share a lot of conversations and emails and discussions, and you'll gradually, hopefully, pick up a bunch of stuff I'm doing and then take that away, and that'll be your job. That's my theory.
Yeah, this absolutely isn't a Matt leaves Empire job. This is a Claire joins Empire job.
Yeah, but I'm hoping, I'm still going to be about. I'll still be writing some Winds of Fortune. I'll definitely, I'm not disappearing. But it will give me the ability to free up a load. And it's a twin axle, actually. I mean, it's two goals. One is to free up a bunch of my time to do Unknown Worlds, but the other is we barely coped this year. The growth was so enormous and so huge. And we started the year and everything seemed fine, and we had our 2,000 players. And by the end of the year, we were like, oh, next year it looks like it'll be 3,000 players. And the realization that being 50% bigger meant 50% more emails and 50% more things I had to deal with was like, okay, I've run out now. There's not enough Mac left. I need help. And that's what this is about as well. It's not just about Unknown Worlds. It's about dealing with the fact that we're 50% bigger than we were before the pandemic.
Yep. Andy and I talked very briefly about this earlier. It's so exciting that we're getting bigger and every event is the biggest event ever. But it has come with its associated problems in that's 50% more toilets, 50% more food, and 50% more mud.
Very much so. Yes. We've negotiated with the farmer and we've got some more land for next year and some things you can sort of solve, but it is very exciting. I think it'll be weird now when we run an event that isn't our biggest event ever, since the last 5 events we've run, not quite, 4 of the last 5 events we've run have been our biggest event ever. At some point it's going to settle down and hopefully it'll sort of plateau into something manageable.
You were going to guess a number then, weren't you? And back bottled out because it's nobody knows.
Nobody knows. You speak to a couple of sort of people and they think in terms of the LRP hobby and they're like, well, you've got everybody. And it's like, that is totally the wrong way to think, because the people coming in are not, they've never live role played before. Hundreds and hundreds of people came to Empire this year who've never live role played before. And the number of people in the country who have never live role played before is very large. So nobody has a clue when it will plateau.
Despite everything, we are still getting European players and further afield.
And it was interesting. I had a long chat with a couple of the people who were sort of looking to come in, taking over running CP, and they were saying they'd also grown. They'd had really great numbers and lots of influx of new players. So it's not just us. I know some of the smaller events are struggling a bit for players, or I don't know. People sort of whisper in my ear and tell me this. I haven't done any kind of authoritative study. I think what is happening is that some of the hobby have left through the pandemic and the 2 years of no LARP and the great kind of shakeout. And inevitably, people leave the hobby all the time. They get kids, their life changes, their work changes, whatever. Or they just go, do you know what? Camping in a field and pretending to be an elf or a goblin for the weekend's not for me anymore. So people, I think, smaller events that kind of had an established player base have struggled a bit because they've seen some of their existing players leave. And the big events, the big GUR events, have been able to sort of grab the incoming players who are finding the hobby on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and I don't know what kids today use, all things magical. But I think they're coming into our game, into CP. What I hope is that stream feeds through to the hobby in general, because obviously we desperately need the hobby to be healthy at all levels. But I hope that will happen, if it isn't already.
I think it will do. We know that our new players and newer players and our existing players do play other games, which is great because More LARP is more better for everybody. I think it's quite easy to find us online, and it takes you longer to find the smaller games online. But I wouldn't be surprised if a load of our new players ran off to play other games next year as well.
Yeah, I hope they do.
It was my experience of Fest LARP in the olden days. I found out about smaller LARPs as a consequence of going to Omega, which is an ancient game from ancient times. But because I was around LARPers who weren't looking at me to organise everything, I met people who ran other games and found about the games that way. It was a very good experience, and hopefully that's what we'll see going forward, because more LARP is good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to be part of the big growing hobby that's got lots of cool events you can go to. But our hobby is terrible at promoting itself. I mean, just breathtakingly bad. And I'm not criticizing. We are terrible. But
our idea of promo is to put Clare and me together in an office and we witter about Empire for half an hour, and it's not good.
Yeah, we're recording off for 6 weeks.
We are not viral content.
We are not viral content.
No, but thankfully, lots of our players are.
That is true. Feel free to put links to your Empire viral comment in the comment section below after you've liked and subscribed and click the bell.
The real stuff, the stuff people actually want to watch.
But there's a lot of it about. I think we talked about that in the last video as well. There's a lot of it about. It's good quality stuff. It's just great. Oh, quick shout out to the Empire Audio people, incidentally, when we're talking about other people's content. That stuff is just great. I've started writing Winds of Fortune while listening to the previous events, Winds of Fortune. And you're making a face, but it's really good stuff because the presenters, the people who are actually reading the stuff, the voice actors in many cases, professional voice actors, they add an extra life into our otherwise quite sometimes turgid prose. And it's certainly, it's good. It's good stuff. If you're not listening to Empire Audio, you should. It's good.
I'm laughing because I couldn't conceive of how I could concentrate on one piece of writing if I had another piece of thing in my ears. That would just send me literally bonkers. But yeah, no, I think it's really, it's fantastic. One of the things we've really benefited from is like new players coming in and then wanting to blog and I don't know what they call it, and make these, this content that then both, they're excited about what they're doing, and that excitement is without doubt the best advertisement our hobby could possibly have. The
award-winning LARP noobs. There was a lot of good service, for example.
Yeah. Hefty Yeti,
All Planet.
Yes. We could just go on. We probably should, because now we've started naming things. Every single one that we don't name check will now be insulted.
Yeah,
Is
to Happen to Roll.
Yeah,
that's To Happen to Roll. They did an interview with Maz last week, which was absolutely lovely, and we're not going to fire Maz over it.
Okay.
Maz is fine.
That's an interesting thing for you to say. But yes, that's good. It's really good stuff.
Mark Holmes, of course. Mark Humes, Humes. His stuff, and it's just amazing. And one of the things that's really nice is there's so many of them, and it's just great. And they've all got different idiosyncratic styles, and it's really nice.
Yeah, those are mainly the Discord and YouTube people. There's a lot of people on Instagram as well, and I haven't worked out if I'm young enough to be allowed a TikTok account yet, but I believe there's quite a bit on TikTok too.
No, we're going to have to recruit.
I think there's a 21 age limit, isn't it? You can't have a TikTok account if you're over 21, I believe.
I'm working on that. I'm working on Matt's daughter, who I'm confident can do as an Empire TikTok channel quite efficiently, particularly if she has access, which I understand is quite important to making a good TikTok video.
And knows how to make it work, yeah.
So is there anything
but
else
this stuff's great. It helps promote the hobby, and it's been. I think it's been the single big factor in us growing so enormously this year. So it'll be interesting to see, and that's why I need Claire, because if we grow again next year, I will break like a twig.
I thought you were going to say we need Claire because you know nothing about social media. It is one of the high points of any.
It's also true. I mean, I know how to spell it.
It is a high point of a Wednesday meeting when somebody brings up a social media issue, and then we have to patiently explain again what social media is and how to spell TikTok. I'm mostly joking. Right, is there anything else we want to talk about before we finish up? I think we've got about half an hour of content.
What are you doing over the weekend? Winter, Andy?
I'm not sure how much I can say about what we're doing over winter. I think it's an open secret. Thank you, Matt. Okay, that gives me permission. We're looking at Conclave. We've had basically we're looking at Conclave. I hinted at it earlier. It's one of the things where the number of players is helping to make the scaling of Conclave tricky. So we are taking some looks at how we can improve the Conclave experience so that we're trying to stop it being 4.5 hours long. Basically, there's more to it than that. But that is one of our big thrusts for winter is to look at Conclave and address some of the challenges that it's presenting.
Keeping it unique from the Synod and the Senate.
While keeping it unique and not losing, and keeping as much of its unique elements, particularly its participatory elements, as we possibly can.
It's a really fascinating challenge because we were discussing this yesterday, weren't we, Andy, in the sense that there's 100 players perhaps who really like Conclave the way it is. They'll moan about how long it is, but fundamentally they like it kind of the way it is. There are hundreds and hundreds of other players who've gone once or twice and are like, oh, I'm never going back to Conclave. And the question really is, who are we designing for? And that is a tough thing to get right. We want to make some changes which are important, but will keep the majority of the people who enjoy Conclave now really invested enjoying it, but basically make it a bit more open and accessible to more players. And we've got plans, good plans. I'm excited.
We'll do a hedge talk video about it once we are closer to those to revealing those plans, or when we reveal them. It depends entirely on how we organise ourselves. But we are looking at that. There's a few of the smaller things. I've got some work to do with Graham on curses, which has been on my to-do list for like 6 years now. We've got a few tweaks to make to traumatic wounds. Actually, we made those tweaks to traumatic wounds 3 years ago. Failed to tell anybody about them, so they've been in play now for 3 years, and then kind of forgot about what the changes were we made. So part of the challenge of the traumatic wound thing is trying to remember what the changes we made were and why, so we can tell people about them. It sounds a lot more scary than it actually is. It's just some minor tagging stuff in the background, but those are broadly the things I'm working on at the moment.
It's about improving and upgrading the system and giving it more options and more game for players, and I think traumatic wounds has generally been one of the successful elements of the game, so it's an element we want to build on. I've got a lot of work to do on the website. I spent 12 months through the pandemic rewriting the website, the visuals, and trying to get a mobile friendly version, and I've got 2/3, 3/4 of the way through that, and then the season started, and I was like, I've got to get that finished this winter and get our new mobile friendly website done, and I'm pretty close, so that'll be exciting.
And what are you doing?
You weren't meant to ask that back.
Well, it was obvious place to go.
3 months 3 months whatever it's called. No. Sorry, Claire, I interrupted.
No, he wasn't meant to ask me that question because I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
What I'm mostly doing is saying, I'll look at that in February to things. But then I'm also saying that at my current job as well. So.
Right. I think that is some content. So I think we shall wave at the camera so I know when to cut it. As I say, like, subscribe below, whatever. And we'll see you all in the new year or the next video, whichever comes first.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.